Norman Rockwell.
Norman Perceval Rockwell was a 20th-century American painter and illustrator. His works enjoy a broad popular appeal in the United States for their reflection of American culture. Rockwell is most famous for the cover illustrations of everyday life scenarios he created for the Saturday Evening Post magazine for more than 4 decades. Among the best-known of Rockwell's works are the Willie Gillis series, Rosie the Riveter, The Problem We All Live With, Saying Grace, and the Four Freedoms series. He is also noted for his work for the Boy Scouts of America, producing covers for their publication Boy's Life, calendars, and other illustrations.
Life and works. Early life.
Norman Rockwell was born on February 3, 1894, in New York City to Jarvis Waring Rockwell and Anne Mary Nancy, born Hill, Rockwell. His earliest American ancestor was John Rockwell, 1588–1662, from Somerset, England, who immigrated to America probably in 1635 aboard the ship Harpoon and became one of the first settlers of Windsor, Connecticut. He had one brother, Jarvis Waring Rockwell, Jr., older by a year and a half. Jarvis Waring, Sr., was the manager of the New York office of a Philadelphia textile firm, George Wood, Sons and Company, where he spent his entire career. Norman transferred from high school to the Chase Art School at the age of 14. He then went on to the National Academy of Design and finally to the Art Students League. There, he was taught by Thomas Fogarty, George Bridgman, and Frank Vincent Dumond. His early works were produced for St. Nicholas Magazine, the Boy Scouts of America, BSA, publication Boy's Life, and other juvenile publications. Joseph Xatari carried on his legacy and style for the BSA. As a student, Rockwell was given smaller, less important jobs. His first major breakthrough came in 1912 at age 18 with his first book illustration for Carl H. Claudy's Tell Me Why, Stories About Mother Nature. In 1913, the 19-year-old Rockwell became the art editor for Boy's Life, published by the Boy Scouts of America, a post he held for 3 years, 1913–16. As part of the position, he painted several covers, beginning with his first published magazine cover, Scout at Ship's Wheel, appearing on the Boy's Life September 1913 edition.
Early career.
Rockwell's family moved to New Rochelle, New York, when Norman was 21 years old and shared a studio with the cartoonist Clyde Forsyth, who worked for the Saturday Evening Post. With Forsyth's help, he submitted his first successful cover painting to the Post in 1916, Mother's Day Off, published on May 20. He followed that success with Circus Barker and Strongman, published on June 3, Gramps at the Plate, August 5, Redhead Loves Hattie Perkins, September 16, People in a Theater Balcony, October 14, and Man Playing Santa, December 9. Rockwell was published 8 times total on the Post cover within the first 12 months. Norman Rockwell published a total of 323 original covers for the Saturday Evening Post over 47 years. His Sharp Harmony appeared on the cover of the issue dated September 26, 1936. It depicts a barber and 3 clients, enjoying a cappella song. The image was adopted by Spebsksa in its promotion of the art. Rockwell's success on the cover of the Post led to covers for other magazines of the day, most notably the Literary Digest, The Country Gentleman, Leslie's Weekly, Judge, People's Popular Monthly and Life magazine. During World War I, he tried to enlist into the U.S. Navy but was refused entry because, at 6 feet, 1.8 m, tall and 140 pounds, 64 kilograms, he was 8 pounds underweight. To compensate, he spent one night gorging himself on bananas, liquids and donuts, and weighed enough to enlist the next day. However, he was given the role of a military artist and did not see any action during his tour of duty.
World War II.
In 1943, during World War II, Rockwell painted the Four Freedoms series, which was completed in 7 months and resulted in him losing 15 pounds. The series was inspired by a speech by Franklin D. Roosevelt, in which he described 4 principles for universal rights: freedom from want, freedom of speech, freedom of worship, and freedom from fear. The paintings were published in 1943 by the Saturday Evening Post. Rockwell utilized the Pennell shipbuilding family from Brunswick, Maine as models for 2 of the paintings, Freedom from Want, and A Thankful Mother, and would combine models from photographs and his own vision to create his idealistic paintings. The United States Department of the Treasury later promoted war bonds by exhibiting the originals in 16 cities. Rockwell himself considered freedom of speech to be the best of the 4. That same year, a fire in his studio destroyed numerous original paintings, costumes, and props. Because the period costumes and props were irreplaceable, the fire split his career into 2 phases, the second phase depicting modern characters and situations. Rockwell was contacted by writer Elliot Kaplan, brother of cartoonist Al Cap, with the suggestion that the 3 of them should make a daily comic strip together, with Kaplan and his brother writing and Rockwell drawing. King Features Syndicate is reported to have promised a $1,000 per week deal, knowing that a Cap-Rockwell collaboration would gain strong public interest. However, the project was ultimately aborted as it turned out that Rockwell, known for his perfectionism as an artist, could not deliver material as fast as required of him for a daily comic strip. During the late 1940s, Norman Rockwell spent the winter months as artist-in-residence at Otis College of Art and Design. Students occasionally were models for his Saturday Evening Post covers. In 1949, Rockwell donated an original post cover, April Fool, to be raffled off in a library fundraiser. In 1959, after his wife Mary died unexpectedly from a heart attack, Rockwell took time off from his work to grieve. It was during that break that he and his son Thomas produced Rockwell's autobiography, My Adventures as an Illustrator, which was published in 1960. The Post printed excerpts from this book in 8 consecutive issues, the first containing Rockwell's famous triple self-portrait.
Later career.
Rockwell's last painting for the Post was published in 1963, marking the end of a publishing relationship that had included 321 cover paintings. He spent the next 10 years painting for Look magazine, where his work depicted his interests in civil rights, poverty and space exploration. In 1968, Rockwell was commissioned to do an album cover portrait of Mike Bloomfield and Al Cooper for their record The Live Adventures of Mike Bloomfield and Al Cooper. During his long career, he was commissioned to paint the portraits for Presidents Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon, as well as those of foreign figures, including Gamal Abdel Nasser and Jawaharlal Nehru. One of his last works was a portrait of Judy Garland in 1969. A custodianship of his original paintings and drawings was established with Rockwell's help near his home in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and the Norman Rockwell Museum is still open today year-round. The museum's collection includes more than 700 original Rockwell paintings, drawings, and studies. The Rockwell Center for American Visual Studies at the Norman Rockwell Museum is a national research institute dedicated to American illustration art. For vivid and affectionate portraits of our country, Rockwell received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the United States of America's highest civilian honor, in 1977. Rockwell died November 8, 1978, of emphysema at age 84 in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. First Lady Rosalynn Carter attended his funeral.
Personal life.
Rockwell married his first wife, Irene O'Connor, in 1916. Irene was Rockwell's model in Mother Tucking Children into Bed, published on the cover of the Literary Digest on January 19, 1921. However, the couple divorced in 1930. Depressed, he moved briefly to Alhambra, California as a guest of his old friend Clyde Forsyth. There he painted some of his best-known paintings including The Doctor and the Doll. While there he met and married schoolteacher Mary Barstow. The couple returned to New York shortly after their marriage. They had 3 children, Jarvis Waring, Thomas Rhodes and Peter Barstow. The family lived at 24 Lord Kitchener Road in the Bonnie Crest neighborhood of New Rochelle, New York. Rockwell and his wife were not very religious, although they were members of St. John's Wilmot Church, an Episcopal church near their home, and had their sons baptized there as well. Rockwell moved to Arlington, Vermont, in 1939, where his work began to reflect small-town life. In 1953, the Rockwell family moved to Stockbridge, Massachusetts, so that his wife could be treated at the Austin Riggs Center, a psychiatric hospital at 25 Main Street, down Main Street from where Rockwell set up his studio. Rockwell himself received psychiatric treatment from the analyst Erik Erikson, who was on staff at Riggs. Erikson is said to have told the artist that he painted his happiness, but did not live it. In 1959, Mary died unexpectedly of a heart attack. Rockwell married his third wife, retired Milton Academy English teacher Mary Leet Molly Punderson, on October 25, 1961. From 1961 until his death, Rockwell was a member of the Monday Evening Club, a men's literary group based in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. At his funeral, 5 members of the club served as pallbearers, along with Jarvis Rockwell.
Body of work.
Norman Rockwell was a prolific artist, producing over 4,000 original works in his lifetime. Most of his works are either in public collections, or have been destroyed in fire or other misfortunes. Rockwell was also commissioned to illustrate over 40 books including Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. His annual contributions for the Boy Scouts calendars between 1925 and 1976, Rockwell was a 1939 recipient of the Silver Buffalo Award, the highest adult award given by the Boy Scouts of America, were only slightly overshadowed by his most popular of calendar works, the Four Seasons illustrations for Brown and Bigelow that were published for 17 years beginning in 1947 and reproduced in various styles and sizes since 1964. Illustrations for booklets, catalogs, posters, particularly movie promotions, sheet music, stamps, playing cards, and murals, including Yankee Doodle Dandy, and God Bless the Hills, which was completed in 1936 for the Nassau Inn in Princeton, New Jersey, rounded out Rockwell's oeuvre as an illustrator. In 1969, as a tribute to Rockwell's 75th year birthday, officials of Brown and Bigelow and the Boy Scouts of America asked Rockwell to pose in Beyond the Easel, the calendar illustration that year. Rockwell's work was dismissed by serious art critics in his lifetime. Many of his works appear overly sweet in modern critics' eyes, especially the Saturday Evening Post covers, which tend toward idealistic or sentimentalized portrayals of American life. This has led to the often deprecatory adjective Rockwellesque. Consequently, Rockwell is not considered a serious painter by some contemporary artists, who often regard his work as bourgeois and kitsch. Writer Vladimir Nabokov sneered that Rockwell's brilliant technique was put to banal use, and wrote in his book Fnin, that Dali is really Norman Rockwell's twin brother kidnapped by gypsies in babyhood. He is called an illustrator instead of an artist by some critics, a designation he did not mind, as it was what he called himself. However, in his later years, Rockwell began receiving more attention as a painter when he chose more serious subjects such as the series on racism for Look magazine. One example of this more serious work is The Problem We All Live With, which dealt with the issue of school racial integration. The painting depicts a young African-American girl, Ruby Bridges, flanked by white federal marshals, walking to school past a wall defaced by racist graffiti. This painting was displayed in the White House during Bridges' meeting with President Obama in 2011. In 1999, the New Yorker art critic Peter Schedel said of Rockwell in Art News, "Rockwell is terrific. It's become too tedious to pretend he isn't." Rockwell's work was exhibited at the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum in 2001. Rockwell's Breaking Home Ties sold for $15.4 million at a 2006 Sotheby's auction. A 12-city U.S. tour of Rockwell's works took place in 2008. In 2008, Rockwell was named the official state artist of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The 2013 sale of Saying Grace for $46 million, including buyer's premium, established a new record price for Rockwell. Rockwell's work was exhibited at the Reading Public Museum 2013 to 2014.
Influence.
In the film Empire of the Sun, a young boy, played by Christian Bale, is put to bed by his loving parents in a scene also inspired by a Rockwell painting, a reproduction of which is later kept by the young boy during his captivity in a prison camp. Freedom from Fear, 1943. The 1994 film Forrest Gump includes a shot in a school that recreates Rockwell's Girl with Black Eye with young Forrest in place of the girl. Much of the film drew heavy visual inspiration from Rockwell's art. Film director George Lucas owns Rockwell's original of The Peach Crop, and his colleague Steven Spielberg owns a sketch of Rockwell's triple self-portrait. Each of the artworks hangs in the respective filmmaker's workspace. Rockwell is a major character in an episode of Lucas' Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, Passion for Life. In 2005, Target Company sold Marshall Fields to Federated Department Stores. After the sale, Federated discovered that Rockwell's The Clock Mender displayed in the store was a reproduction. Rockwell had donated the painting, which depicts a repairman setting the time on one of the Marshall Field and Company building clocks, and was depicted on the cover of the November 3, 1945 Saturday Evening Post, to the store in 1948. Target has since donated the original to the Chicago History Museum. On Norman Rockwell's birthday, February 3, 2010, Google featured Rockwell's iconic image of young love boy and girl gazing at the moon, which is also known as Puppy Love, on its homepage. The response was so great that day that the Norman Rockwell Museum's servers went down under the onslaught. Dreamland, a track from Canadian alternative rock band Our Lady Peace's 2009 album Burn Burn, was inspired by Rockwell's paintings. The cover for the Oingo Boingo album Only a Lad is a parody of the Boy Scouts of America 1960 official handbook cover illustrated by Rockwell.
Major works.
Scout at Ship's Wheel, first published magazine cover illustration, Boy's Life, September 1913, Santa and Scouts in Snow, 1913, Boy and Baby Carriage, 1916. First Saturday Evening Post cover, Circus Barker and Strongman, 1916, Gramps at the Plate, 1916, Redhead Loves Hattie Perkins, 1916, People in a Theatre Balcony, 1916, Tied You, 1917. First Life magazine cover, Cousin Reginald Goes to the Country, 1917. First Country Gentleman cover, Santa and Expense Book, 1920, Mother Tucking Children into Bed, 1921. First Wife Irene is the Model, No Swimming, 1921, Santa with Elves, 1922, Doctor and Doll, 1929, Deadline, 1938, The Four Freedoms, 1943. Freedom of Speech, 1943, Freedom of Worship, 1943, Freedom from Want, 1943, Freedom from Fear, 1943, Freedom of Speech, 1943, Freedom of Worship, 1943, Freedom from Want, 1943, Freedom from Fear, 1943, Rosie the Riveter, 1943, Going and Coming, 1947, Bottom of the Six, or The Three Umpires. 1949, The New Television Set, 1949, Saying Grace, 1951, The Young Lady with the Shiner, 1953, Walking to Church, 1953, Girl at Mirror, 1954, Breaking Home Ties, 1954, The Marriage License, 1955, The Scoutmaster, 1956, The Runaway, 1958, A Family Tree, 1959, Triple Self-Portrait, 1960, Golden Rule, 1961, The Problem We All Live With, 1964, Southern Justice, Murder in Mississippi, 1965, New Kids in the Neighborhood, 1967, Russian Schoolroom, 1967, The Rookie, Spirit of 76, 1976, stolen in 1978 but recovered in 2001 by the FBI's Robert King Whitman.
Other collections.
Norman Rockwell World War II posters, hosted by the University of North Texas Library's Digital Collections. Rockwell Collection at the National Museum of American Illustration, Norman Rockwell and the Art of Scouting at the National Scouting Museum, Irving, Texas.